On July 2, 1943, above the skies of Sicily, First Lieutenant Charles B. Hall, a 22-year-old from Brazil, Indiana, changed history in an instant. Flying his P-40 Warhawk, Hall dived from above and took down a German Focke-Wulf 190, one of the Luftwaffe's elite fighters. It was the first confirmed aerial victory by a black American pilot in U.S. military history, a feat the Germans considered impossible. The swastika Hall painted on his aircraft marked not only a personal triumph but the beginning of a legend. That day, the world began to witness what would become one of the most extraordinary combat records in aviation history, one forged by the Tuskegee Airmen, whom the Germans would come to call Schwarz-Vogelmenschen, the Black Birdmen. The Tuskegee Airmen shattered both Nazi and American racial assumptions. Nazi ideology, rooted in racial supremacy, classified black people as Untermensch, subhuman, unfit for leadership or complex tasks. Meanwhile, the U.S. military shared disturbingly similar views. A 1925 Army War College report openly claimed black soldiers lacked the intelligence and courage for combat leadership. Yet, as war engulfed Europe, civil rights leaders like Walter White and A. Philip Randolph pressured the Roosevelt administration to address the hypocrisy of fighting for democracy abroad while denying it at home. Their efforts led to the creation of a segregated training program for black pilots in Tuskegee, Alabama. A reluctant concession, but a critical first step. When the 99th Pursuit Squadron was officially formed in 1941, the military made it clear this was an experiment. But for the men who trained there, this was no experiment, it was a mission. They trained harder and longer than their white counterparts, racking up more flight hours and enduring a 60% washout rate, significantly higher than the 40% among white cadets. These pilots weren't just learning to fly, they were preparing to prove an entire nation wrong. Captain Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., the son of the U.S. Army's first black general, endured 4 years of silent isolation at West Point, but would soon command men who carried the hopes of 13 million black Americans. The 99th saw its first combat in North Africa in 1943, and by July 2, Charles Hall had scored his historic kill. But despite early successes, military commanders continued to doubt them. One commander filed a damning report claiming the 99th lacked aggressiveness. That report almost shut the program down until Anzio. In January 1944, during intense fighting at the Anzio beachhead, Tuskegee pilots flying outdated P-40s shot down as many as 13 enemy aircraft in just 2 days, silencing critics and proving they belonged in the fight. Their courage led to their full integration into the 332nd Fighter Group alongside the 100th, 301st, and 302nd Squadrons. It was as bomber escorts for the 15th Air Force that the Tuskegee Airmen truly became legends. In their iconic red-tailed P-51 Mustangs, they flew long-range missions deep into Nazi territory, under strict orders from Colonel Davis. Stay with the bombers, no chasing enemy fighters for personal glory. This unwavering discipline became their signature. Bomber crews quickly took notice, and soon, a phrase began to circulate among them. If you can get the red tails, get them. One of their most grueling tests came on July 18, 1944, when Colonel Davis led 66 Mustangs to escort bombers attacking a Luftwaffe base in Germany. The bombers were late and German fighters attacked in waves. Though 15 bombers were lost in the chaos, the Red Tails claimed 11 enemy kills and prevented total disaster. Despite criticism, operational analysis showed they had entered an unwinnable situation and still minimized losses better than most groups could have. Then came March 24, 1945, the Berlin Raid. The 332nd was tasked with a 1,600-mile round trip to escort bombers targeting a key tank factory. Intelligence warned that Germany's new jet fighters, the Me-262s, would be waiting. Faster than any Allied aircraft, the jets were nearly untouchable. But Lieutenant Roscoe Brown had studied their tactics and weaknesses. That day, the Red Tails shot down 3 Me-262s, more than most entire units had destroyed in the whole war. For their heroism, the 332nd earned a Distinguished Unit Citation. Their aerial combat record now stood shoulder to shoulder with any unit in the U.S. military. But their battles weren't only in the skies. 32 Tuskegee pilots were captured during the war, and their time as prisoners revealed a jarring truth. In German POW camps, black airmen were often treated with more equality by white Americans than they were at home. Lieutenant Alexander Jefferson noted this painful irony, that he received more respect in a Nazi prison camp than he would back in the segregated United States. Despite the risks and sacrifices, upon returning home, many Tuskegee Airmen were met not with parades, but with silence or worse, with the same racism they had left behind. Still, their legacy endured. The Red Tails flew over 15,000 sorties, protected hundreds of bombers, and lost significantly fewer than other escort groups. Just 27 compared to the average of 46. They destroyed 112 enemy aircraft in the air, another 150 on the ground, and wrecked nearly 1,000 rail and motor vehicles. Their excellence was not an anomaly. It was the direct result of rigorous training, technical skill, and unmatched discipline. Their success forced military leaders to confront the absurdity of segregation, leading President Truman to issue Executive Order 9981 in 1948, integrating the U.S. military. Recognition was slow, but it came. In 2007, President George W. Bush awarded the Tuskegee Airmen the Congressional Gold Medal. Of the original group, only around 300 were still alive to witness that moment. Men like Roscoe Brown, Lee Archer, and Charles Hall had waited over 6 decades for the acknowledgement they deserved. The story of the Tuskegee Airmen is not just a chapter of black history or military history, it's American history. They didn't just shoot down enemy fighters. They demolished the barriers of prejudice, proving with every mission that skill, courage, and character are not defined by color. In the words of Roscoe Brown, "We didn't just fight the Germans. We fought ignorance, prejudice, and hatred, and we won all 3 battles." Their legacy endures not in myth, but in irrefutable fact. The Red Tails